So for our next panel on harnessing technology to create impact beyond COVID-19, we have Sean DePana, the Executive Vice President and Head of Corporate Innovation at Plug and Play, who will be joining us to moderate another very insightful panel.
Well, thank you very much, Tanya, for the introductions. It's a pleasure to be here today in this sunny Bangkok time and very quiet streets. I'm super excited to have a panel of 4 leaders representing some of the largest multinational corporations in Asia. Definitely looking forward to hearing their insightful thoughts on how they are enabling the technology to create impact in their industries and currently beyond COVID-19. Actually, right now, with over half of the world population being locked down under this shelter in place and with social distancing, the lifeline of the global economies embedded in corporations is almost in every industry has come to stand still. Impacting the jobs, impacting the revenues, and of course the customers. This basically is going to be very interesting for me to hear from a multitude of the leaders in this panel to talk about their thoughts and their vision of the future beyond COVID-19. I have some exciting panelists here. Some of them are there already, but some will join in a minute. First of all, I'd like to introduce them. Mr. Naoki Yoshida is my first panelist, President and CEO of a Pan-Pacific Holding Corporation. Pan-Pacific International Holding Corporation operates over 600 outlet stores. Their company sells consumer electronics, daily necessities, groceries, and food. Actually, 50% of their products is food related. And then basically the Pan-Pacific International Holding also operates real estate and management. Mr. Yoshida is a key role as supporting many aspects of the group as a senior managing director, oversees the planning, legal and labor affairs, finance, accounting and tax affairs throughout the Japan and overseas. Welcome, Mr. Yoshida. Second panelist is Mr. Paulos Bambang, a member of a board of director of Astra International in Indonesia. Astra is one of the leading conglomerates in Indonesia with diversified businesses across transportations, mining, infrastructure, agriculture, health, and other industries. Astra business runs through more than 200 subsidiaries and joint ventures, and they are supported by over 200,000 employees. Mr. Paulos oversees the infrastructure, logistics, IT, property, as well as strategic projects related to innovations and startup of investment. He will be joining us in a couple of minutes. My third panelist is Mr. Axel Winter, CTO of Central Group of Thailand. Central Tech is a subsidiary of Central Retail Conglomerates. Central Group Thailand, largest retailer, is one of the most well-known brands. Some of basically the department stores called Robinsons, everybody knows about them. Central Group is leading player in online e-tailing worldwide, focusing on e-commerce, enabling omni-channel experience for the customers. Axel's responsibilities is an advocate of driving technology transformations, focusing on omni-channel, e-commerce data analytics, machine learning, and AI, as well as the customer care, digital marketing, and retail innovations. Welcome, Axel. And last but not the least, panelist is Mr. James Park, CEO of Munich Re, responsible in Southeast Asia and Singapore. Munich Re is a well-known insurance company, one of the largest basically in the world, based out of Germany. They have over $54 billion in revenue, over 40,000 employees. The group primary insurance arm, Munich Re, shares are listed in the German stock exchange and Xterra electronic trading systems. James' responsibility for Southeast Asia, for Southeast Asia and Singapore is bringing sustainable insurance and reinsurance solutions to their respective end users, SMEs, and as well as corporations. Welcome, James. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. These are very interesting times for us. We've been in the lockdown for 2.5 months now. I'm sure the impact has been tremendous across many of the corporations that you're running, and of course the industries and across the different regions. I want to open up the questions to all of you guys for the first one, being that what are some of the challenges to businesses in the post-COVID era that you're seeing? Obviously, we're going to come out of the lockdown soon, but we're going to see how the change is going to be impacting you. I'm going to start with Mr. Yoshida to hear your thoughts on this.
You're on mute. Okay. Oh, can you hear me?
Very good, very good.
Okay. It's hard to envisage at this moment, but I see actually some changes already actually taking place. Consumers' actual behavior is very much changing. They are very much dependent upon many different sources to actually get information. And they are more price sensitive. And they are very selective actually, where, I'm a retailer. So from my viewpoint, it's a consumer's behavior that I'm focusing on. And they are changing in every aspect of their buying behavior. And I think it will continue to change. And even though, the emergency is going to be left, and I don't think that people will go back to what we were before in a world.
Yoshida-san, do you think that more or less the behavior of a consumer in Japan versus the other Asian countries is aligned, or do you think that this is something unique to Japan market primarily? In terms of, yeah,
I can't really tell about other countries, but because people have certain fear of traveling, people have certain level of fear about future, and I think these are in common. Therefore, we cannot depend upon very high activity anymore of the people. For example, our sales, 5% of our sales was accounted for the sales from the tourists. It's gone. Okay, and but on the other hand, people are so afraid of actually the future. The unemployment will go up, is already gone up, and they are not stable about the future income. So they're more selective. I think that's universal.
Wonderful. Axel, let me point this question to you as well, and want to see how that impact is going to resonate with Central Group, and what is your strategy to implement. Do you see this kind of cross-border from tourism? Because in Thailand, obviously, there's a lot of tourists coming here, and they have certain application they're using through e-commerce or purchasing habits. How do you see those changes applying to the market and your company?
Well, how tourism specifically is going to change, I wish I know. The crystal ball is just not on my table right now, so I'd probably defer a bit on that. What I do think is, and I thought it's a bit similar to what I heard from Japan, is the comment is that clearly price sensitivity in some parts of the in some parts of the customer segment is increasing, and it has to be, right. I mean, if you're saying there are soup kitchens being bombarded in some countries now, I mean, how could it be possibly different, right? And I think that there is a new normal, that is for sure, and we use this word a bit loosely, but clearly it's not going to go back. Absolutely not. No way, right? So there is going to be a different way, even if there were a cure or a vaccine of sorts. I believe a lot of these changes are here to stay. The way we operate together, Asians, specifically Southeast Asia, they love their will this change? People might stay more home, might go more up country, because this is it's a trend that started. It's popular on Facebook and Instagram to have your selection of food orderings and lonely bicycle rides in the countryside or whatever it might be. And so this has to drive change. But it's also true for the way we work together. It's with suppliers. It's in the office. Will we again really go back to some of these offices? Not ours, fortunately, but some of these offices are very narrow, very tight. Respect with cubicles. Is that really how it's going to be in the future? I don't think so. I think there is really a resetting of a lot of the ways we collaborate. We work together. We work with suppliers, with vendors, IT vendors, and so on. But on the other side, only digital tools will also not be enough, right? This is what we also see. So we have started Facebook Live and so on. It's kind of these old shopping channels like QVC in the past. Some of this is moving to social media, and there you can see that that the interest is there. People go in and watch it and then chit chat with each other of what they like and what they dislike. So of course there is a new behavior, and then kind of myself running a tech business in a sense within the group, providing services to Asia and Europe. Of course, we need to then respond of saying, well, maybe the one mobile app and the one website is not the, and then you go to your product list or something, it's not the only way anymore to experience. Maybe we send a truck with 20 things to a customer and he can look at it at his home, right? I mean, I think there will be new formats there.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. I'm sure that the technology plays a bigger part, and of course, the safety and security of the shoppers and coming to the stores, back to the malls is a big areas that as well that you can apply technology with. Let me move to James. How are you, James, today?
Very good, thank you.
Great. From the insurance side of the business, I definitely love to hear from your side. How is this going to basically post-COVID going to impact the insurance business as one of the oldest business in the world? And so if you can give us some insight on that, that would be great.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a great platform to connect to the Plug and Play and also the wider community in Asia Pacific. So thank you and for all these participants to take time out to listen. What are the challenges to business post-COVID? It's a big question. I would probably at a high level divide into two parts. The first part is, of course, the economic part. The consensus, or I think the wish of everyone, is that they're looking for a jump start when we come out of COVID. And as Naoki-san mentioned and Axel mentioned, this may not happen immediately. So there's a gap in the expectation to what we are feeling, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So we can only go by the limited data that we have to know what kind of recovery that we have. In a broader sense, many economists are talking about a U shape to a V shape to a L shape, and recently I've even seen the Nike swoosh shape recovery. So there's a lot of theories behind that, but certainly the hope and the wish is that there's a jump start back into the norm. So that's one part, and that'll be the biggest challenge, I think, to see how we can recover and get back onto business growth again. The second one, which I also think it's equally important or big one, is, I would say, the well-being and the mental health. So yes, I'm in the financial industry, and it's one of the oldest industries in our sector. And at the end, I would say we are still a people business. So I rely on clients, the whole value chain. And here, I do think this is taking a big toll. We have recently internally conducted a survey of our employees across Asia, and many of the feedback was quite emotional words, being quite distressed or stressed or not doing so well. And there were some positive words. I echo what Christine mentioned in the previous panel, and I think Edwin mentioned as well, productivity. So there is a range. However, there were a lot of words that were also quite negative. And I think being in people business, you need to ensure that people's optimism and their mindset is still pre-COVID to post-COVID stable and strong. So I think the two challenges to sum up is the economic jumpstart and also the well-being of people in general, employees, customers, and the whole value chain.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you again. I will come back to some questions regarding the obviously the nature of the risk later on for you to respond to that. I believe we have Pak Palos online here from the Astra International, and I would love to hear your thought, Pak Palos, about simply my question was being, what are some of the challenges to business in the post-COVID-19? If you can provide some feedback, that'll be great from your end.
Yeah, before I answer to your question, I give you the Astra, so you know the business, because we are conglomerates. Basically, yes. We have seven business lines, 234 companies, 226,000 employees, and last year we have 17.6 billion revenue, profit $1.6 billion, and market cap 21 billion last year. Wow. But during COVID, so unbelievable, maybe 30%, 40% drop on market cap. So basically, all the equity lost to somewhere that stolen by COVID. So in our business line, we have automotive industry. Let's start with automotive industry. I think nobody wants to buy car in the time of COVID. So basically now we are in the demand mode, how to make sure even in this low demand, hopefully that if someone wants to buy car, they have selected our car. So this is very important for us to engage with customers. So now is how to get the prime of the prime, the cream of the nation who still wants to buy the car. Yeah, we have a down in April month, we have down significantly in sales. But I think compared to market share, we are gaining market share. It's mean that even in the downside of the economy, that we are still resilient. Basically, the customer prefer to buy our car compared to that. That's the automotive industry. And the financial services, because I believe that, we are financing four-wheeler, two-wheelers across the globe, the Gojek case, the ride sharings. But I think still, because we have our financial services supporting our automotive, that's why our automotive still survive, because we have the value chain. So basically, the value chain, why Astra very strong, because now our financial services supporting the automotive. Yeah, sometimes in this March, is 80% of the sales of the automotive supported by our financial services. This is two big impact, but I think heavy equipment and mining, we have a different impact. Our coal, big impact, yeah, because of the price of the coal, but our gold mining is going up. So basically, and construction down. So basically, in this heavy equipment mining, we have a mixed result. Agro industry, because of the foreign exchange, I think we have a very good result. But the rest of my kingdom is infrastructures, logistics, IT, and property. We have also different result. Property, okay, because our market is medium and up. So basically, and Sean, it's the first time for us to see during the COVID, there is some couples wants to buy property without seeing the site. This is the first time in our life.
Innovation at its best. Definitely, technology is shifted towards the buying habits of consumers.
Yeah, we have been doing it in the last 6 months with our digital presence, but no one wants to close the deal before seeing the site. But now, I think because this COVID, they don't want to go there because we have a discount, everything. They close it down now. So I think that's a great thing. So basically, in my division, infrastructure badly affected. Yeah, because of toll road, nobody in Indonesia will lock down. Logistics, that's good because I think something. So basically, in In total, we have a mix, yeah, basically top 2 + 5 minutes. That's the business that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Paus. Let me just pose a quick questions, and I want just a feedback from everybody to just get some sense of understanding. You know, we see a lot of talk about, you know, consumer behavior shifting and the sentiments, and basically the new norm. Whether it's a pandemic, prior to pandemic even, there was a lot of shift was happening in certain industries, more so in the retail side, travel and hospitality side, even in manufacturing, in almost every major automotive industries, and of course, with the price of oil dropping at the astronomical level, this can put a lot of impact in terms of how people buy automotive, how they get insurance, how they basically, you know, do financially loans and all the activities. This is what I want to understand from your side. This new norm means enabling a lot of this new innovation and technologies. And I want to understand, how are you thinking ahead in terms of this new norm to implement these strategies of innovations and technologies, and what technologies particularly, if you give me a couple of examples, that can optimize your business model to reduce the costs, improve the profitability, to be able to basically sustain, because the companies and organization at the lower margin always going to suffer most. So how do you increase those margins and maintain also the overhead in terms of a cost? You have to make sure the overhead is always managed properly as you get new innovations into the new lines of, you know, industries and businesses. The overhead has to drop. So dealing with the payrolls and so forth. So let me ask with you, Mr. Yoshida, if you can just start with you with that thoughts. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry. The technology will certainly to play an important role. Because the consumer have changed. You know, we are a very typical brick and mortar business. We have 80,000 people working for us. They are all on site. All right. I think the consumers have selectively decided to actually change their own path. Therefore, we need to be adaptive actually to these changes. And what are the changes of the consumers? It's all technology related, whether it's a internet, whether it's a social network, whether it's a mobile device. And unless actually your presence is actually confirmed in a digital world, you don't exist. So whilst actually we're maintaining actually our 600 outlets, it doesn't mean that we are not going to be involved actually with this technological change and the consumer's behavior in accordance with it.
Yeah. Do you feel that, Yoshida-san, the supply chain side of the business also is being shifted so rapidly? How is that? How are you implementing new innovations, new technologies to really address that? Because the last mile delivery is obviously omni-channel is a very big areas that basically consumers are staying home. Obviously now they're not going to want to come to the outdoor. The foot traffic is less. So all of this impacts the buying habits and the revenues. So are you doing some stuff, new changes on that areas?
I think we're bound to. And interestingly, we're not the only one actually who are affected. Lots of consumer packaged goods companies, CPGs, they are massively affected actually in that. So therefore, whilst actually we are bound to be adaptive, but we do have actually a lot of partners to do so actually together. I think that's the change. People do not watch TV anymore. People are not too keen on Googling, but people are more, people have actually a more casual way to access to the information. And then a lot of actually consumer packaged goods companies are suffering as well. So they've approached us, and there are actually lots of things we can do together. That's one thing. And aside from that, yes, as you mentioned about the last 1 mile, we have actually many different ways to answer the question now. So we don't necessarily have to have a huge fulfillment center like Amazon, but we can still actually do provide our customers with the solution of the last mile issues.
So more or less, basically make sure that the consumers feel that they can get the delivery faster, they can feel the experience of buying online is much better. So these kind of areas very important. Let me move to you, Axel. You know, you are IT in charge of seeing all this innovation coming into play. Obviously, central malls are big across, you know, Thailand as well as South Asia, and real estate part is big areas of investment for you guys. What are you seeing in enabling technology across these mediums of industries?
I mean, again, I think it's a kind of interesting. There are definitely similarities to Japan, and there should be, right? And I think also that the customers, the consumers, also the business customers, of course, they even if where they still can, they definitely want to reduce the exposure to go to places. So it's definitely online, and it's not, as I said, it's not only the mobile app, the website. It's really also new forms so we have rolled out call and shop and chat and shop, and you know, as I said, Facebook Live, and then so there is a social momentum there, and so that echoes. Then of course there are also technologies for the in-store, as in you know, I mean, checking the temperatures and so on, and making this a bit more mainstream. I mean, last year you saw still at airports every now and then someone with a camera, kind of a makeshift stand, and of course now all of these things are being a bit how should I say, more productized, more industrialized, kind of as a standard way of operating. And I think it's an important part to actually go down and then say, okay, how do we then actually react to ongoing changes in the demand and in the consumption model, right? So of course there are supply chain changes, as in, hey, customers have different interests now. It's not only a price. It's not only a price point question. It's also about I'm looking for different products than I did. My home is becoming more important, so home products are probably important. Of course, food products, cooking, self-cooking in a sense, was not that crazy in Thailand before. You know, you go out to the street and buy the food there, specifically in Bangkok. So you see these changes, and then so how can we keep track? So what is since COVID came up, my team, my tech team is 24/7. Operating because we saw on an almost daily basis shifts, and I think the power for us is we started very seriously in innovation and also adopting online commerce, different digital commerce tools in about 3 years ago. So for us then is the question is, how can we be faster actually on one side roll out what we think are tools for the future, let's say omni-channel tools, enablement in the store, decentralized supply chain, but I can also return decentralized to any place and so on. So these are new requirements. And at the same time, what would customer want tomorrow? And if I see that trend, do I actually have a teams on standby which can just pick this up and start doing this immediately, right? And so that we can push out new features, let's say instead of a year or 6 months, but like any other tech company in a week or two. I think this is where my thinking and our thinking is right now. How can we enable both the mid and long term vision I seriously believe this is the challenge of our time, specifically for corporations. To be able to interact and act much faster on trends than ever before, right? Okay. We do not have the luxury to wait a year to see simple features coming into play. It's about enabling the now.
Great, great. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can discuss, and we don't have enough time to really go over so many things that can be changing with post-COVID and all the technology and enabling that consumers want to see and digitally. So let me ask James quickly. James, the underwriting losses is horrendous. In the first quarter, AIG announced they lost $87 million in general insurance. So this kind of insurance impacts really obviously hits many, many different insurance companies, reinsurance companies. How do you see that technology areas can help minimize these losses? How do you enable, have you enabled? I know that in our platform, we have over 87 insurance companies that we engage with. And so we help out with the roadmap of innovation with them. So how do you foresee this kind of shift quickly in your organization?
Right. No, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, so there are a lot of losses, and I think the first part is that as an industry in our part, we must honor what we were meant to cover. So a lot of losses at the moment, Q1 out of COVID has been a little bit more niche sectors. So you saw the Olympic delay in Tokyo. You saw the discussion on Wimbledon delay. So there are event cancellations. Of course, when you look at the life and the health, that's a bit obvious with the increase in mortality and the health costs. So these are what was, let's say, originally covered. So these are what's driving some of the cost estimates. And the impact on insurance sector is not just the insurance risk. I also need to add that there were a lot of asset risk that was affected because a lot of the insurance funds were invested in equities or various vehicles, and they haven't certainly performed because of COVID environment. So probably just to clarify that, and pandemic is a very, very sensitive topic because it's very difficult to cover as a global because of the accumulation nature. So we need to consider it on a case by case, by market or by industry. So that's one sector. I think you raised a question of how can technology minimize loss. So therefore, I'm not sure if you can minimize the loss. I think you can prevent a loss. Or
Preventively, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So you can prevent a loss, or you can certainly be more proactive in managing loss, because there are certain sectors where it's very clear that if you proactively manage the loss, the cost will come down, and also the client is happy because they're receiving the funds faster and they're back on the road faster, or their health is recovered faster, and so on. So there is that element that can certainly come in. But thinking also a bit broader in the new technology in the insurance segment, topics like IoT is a big development that the industry is focusing on, or certainly Munich Re is focusing on, and that could have really an early warning signal on could be the ship, it could be the container on a cargo ship, or it could be the industrial park that has a gas leakage. So this could be more and more used to prevent or attempt the loss much earlier. And hence what it does is it brings down the costs strain into the whole economy. So that's the whole idea. And I think insurance is, of course, utilized or enacted during the difficult times. When you have a financial loss, we step in and provide that stability or the indemnity. So from that perspective, that's how technology can be used to minimize or prevent rather than change the loss size.
Precisely. Thank you for that insight. Exactly. I think that the preventive measures across different, even life insurance, health and PNCs, and all of those being deployed across the many kind of insurance companies to look at the options. And insurtechs are very proactive in that space. Pak Palos, let me point the fingers at you again, please. Let me know, how have you engaged with so many different technology areas in your different business units, especially the one that you're in king of your kingdom, you're basically in charge of?
Yeah, you know, in our Astra business, there is a 4 big area: automotive financial services, Astra property, and logistic, dealing with customer directly, B2C. So I think with the customer behavior mentioned by my colleagues there, so I think we affect a lot because I think we are directly dealing with one-by-one customers. So I think we have to change. And before that, our digital presence is just one of the omni-channel. So basically, we are just okay there, but not really think that our digital presence is really our main point, because brick and mortar, like Mr. Yoshida mentioned, we have a showroom, we have 100 showroom, we have everything. So we think that customers want to buy something, they have to go to our show unit to showroom. But with this COVID change totally with customers. So basically now, number one, we do digital engagement. So basically we do with our customer direct engagement. So we do, like, for example, our own Uncle Sam, we call like Salesforce. We reactivate what we have been doing so far now internally. We reactivate digital engagement with customers so that we know what is customer doing, and then we do everything. So digital engagement. The second is digital presence. Now we are in the last 2 months, actually, in the last 2 months, we focus our effort to do digital presence. So basically, as a primus inter pares, prime. Now, because we don't have any quote unquote opportunity to meet with customers, so digital presence is very active. We do it. Because we have 100 people, I have around 700 people in the IT side, so easy for us to reactivate brand, to reprioritize all the IT for just developing the back end, the backbone. Now we are doing the front end. So, we are moving now from premises to clouds, for example. So digital, promising to clouds, so premises, and then we are leveraging with partners, with startup, everything. Our three new competence that we acquired in the last 2 months: AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, as well as data analytics. So I'm working with NVIDIA, with everything. Now we have a very good ecosystem to deal with customers. So just give you one example. Before COVID, every business has their own data sets. Yeah, yes. Automotive data, financial data, property data. Now with this COVID, we try to integrate everything into one single data. So for example, wants to buy BMW, Toyota, and then financial services, we know this is the prime customer of Astra, premium customer. And when they want to buy property, we know that this is the prime customer, so we give an additional discount. So now we integrate everything into one data, because now customer can see that Astra is totally different. Now they are not dealing with one particular business, but with the whole Astra, with the discount level. Yeah. So that's why, in order to do that, we have to move not just to premises, from silo to become corporate-wide integration, from premises to clouds. The only way to engage with new customer behavior is totally change your quote-unquote, your strategy. So basically, digital presence, and then digital capability, digital threat, and now it's becoming our focus. So you will see in the next 6 months, you will see the different Astra in approaching customers, because we don't want to be left behind. We want to be the first organization running, not just the last organization standing. So now my effort, I have around 700 people in IT just to focus on dealing with customer, from product oriented. What we have now is product oriented, selling cars, selling this with discount. Now change to customer oriented IT to get with customers. Hopefully in the next 6 months, we will see totally different offer to customers, and they will see different Astra.
Thank you for that fantastic perceptions and strategy. I think that what I'm hearing across the line over here from everyone is that basically the tools that basically enable to handle the customer behavior, to understand, to provide services through this knowledge base, and the technology was enabled before with a lot of companies. They were deploying it slowly, but now it's fast-tracked as we see the behavior shifting.
Just to add to what you mentioned, last time the tool just as a business enabler, IT, digital presence is just business enabler. Now, the tools and IT becoming the business driver in the future, not just enablers.
Exactly. Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Pauls. And thank you, everybody. We're running, unfortunately, out of time, but I really appreciate all your sentiments and feedback, and in your respective industries, how it's really going to help out a lot of our partners and clients who are dialed in and listening in. There's a lot of similarity across the different industries, a lot of similarities that is occurring in terms of customers' behavior. I think that what we are seeing as an innovation platform, and as I see and I talk to a lot of CEOs of companies, you need to be proactive rather than reactive. We go through this kind of disaster circumstances, through the financial crisis, through eras of a lot of the real estate bubbles bursting, and as well as the dot-com era. A lot of companies go out of business, unfortunately. A lot of M&A happens, integrations. But what comes out of it is new technology and innovations can basically lead the next decades in terms of leading new opportunities for many companies. And I hope that we are always seeing that by being proactive in our strategy. Thank you again for everybody's time. I know you guys have been very busy and every day, and I appreciate you being here today. And thank you again. Looking forward to speaking with you guys soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean, and all the panelists for the panel discussion just now.